Hello, welcome, and well met. Frady here, and just wanted to come in, share with you a little bit more of the journey of Loren, mapping the world of Areth. You can probably hear the music in the background. That's just a good fantasy mix with Celestial Aeon Project and a bunch of them from Spotify, which I love having that kind of music going. It helps feed the atmosphere and what I'm trying to work on. So let's look at what we're doing so far. Again, like I said, I'm working on the continent of Loren. If you've tuned into my earlier streams, my other earlier posts, you'll know that I was working on the forests and filling in the forests, at least penciling in the forests. You know, they're still going back and actually inking them in, but there's a lot more I want to do with the forests before I do that. So, that being said, let's take a look and show you what's going on. Alright, here we are. As you can see, the map has come along fairly well since I last posted. The forests are mapped. As you can see all the various jungle type forests down in here. You can see where it goes up into the deciduous and temperate, all the way up into the coniferous of the northern realms. Which, that patch right there, let's zoom in on this thing. This is the beginning of some of the stuff that I'm working on. I have now inking in and filling in, sorry for my fingers there, I am inking in and filling in the terrains of Loren. See, as you can see here, this is all black and white. And these black and white images, you know, you can see that there are specific areas set up for different terrain types and locations, and so we're filling those in here. You can already see that it was being done with the rivers a while back, but now we're filling in, like, this is the frozen wastes of Valhalla, so that's an absolute ice, that is a complete ice, permafrost, snow, basically a wintry wasteland, like you would expect to see maybe in the Siberia areas, or way North Canada, you know, those locations. Alright, now you travel on down here, you see other various deserts and wastelands, like the Saharan Desert. And then you see, excuse me, I'm getting choked on something. You see different marshlands and stuff like that. And then you got this funky red spot right here, which may look like a mistake on the map, and I can quite assure you it's not. It's known as the Crimson Marsh. And it is cursed and stained with the blood as a reminder of the great war that took place there. If I am not mistaken, it was in the I'm wanting to say it was the Kinslayer Wars or something similar to that. No. Anyway, it was during a war between the good races that, as a reminder of the meaningless war and the meaningless blood that was shed there, the blood stained the land, and it became a marsh, a bloody marsh that would forever mar the Loren, that part of Loren, as a reminder of that battle. I'll go into more detail and depth in some of the histories later, but this is just giving you a brief overlook. But yeah, if you look in, you can see all the work that's being done and has been done. So, what we're getting ready to do is I am going to invite you to join me as I work on filling in some of these locations. All right, see if I can prop this up a little better, or I can give a good view of what's going on. And since this right here is the area intact, I will start there. So we're going to start putting in some of the terrain, kind of like what we did with the trees. We're going to put in some of the terrain features of the we're going to put in some of the terrain features of these wetlands and these swampy areas. So you good? Can you see my hand? Yes, good. So we're going to go in here and we're just going to fill it in. And what this does is it gives this kind of makes me feel like I'm doing some of those old Dungeons and Dragons maps. If any of you watching are familiar with the TSR era of Dungeons and Dragons, which is by far, in my opinion, still the best era of Dungeons and Dragons. Don't shoot the messenger, that's just me. I grew up, that was the era I started playing in. And while the one thing I don't miss is the Thaco system, that was actually sometimes more of a headache and a hassle than it was, but I mean, it worked for the time that it was there. And man, it was such a wonder to play during those eras. But yeah, but the maps, oh man, the artwork of that era was just unmistakable. I mean, you had what they called the Four Horsemen of the Dungeons and Dragons of fantasy art. So people like Larry Elmore and Clyde Caldwell, which was my favorite at the time. You had Keith Parkinson and Jeff Easley. I mean, those were the fantasy art giants of their day. I mean, and that's not counting the Hildebrandt brothers or anything like that. We are not leaving them out of fantasy. I mean, but the point being, the ones that were well known for Dungeons and Dragons was those four. Now, for Lord of the Rings and the Tolkien art, the brothers Hildebrandt, including Star Wars and Conan the Barbarian, as far as like the movies wise, yeah, the Hildebrandts were phenomenal. And, you know, I still love the Hildebrandt brothers stuff. I've got an old, I want to say it's a 1984 or 1985 Realms of Wonder Dungeons and Dragons calendar from that was done by by Greg Hildebrandt. And that, those just listen to me stumbling over myself. I'm so excited about what I'm talking about, I can't even get it all out at once. But no, the thing about it is that their art inspired imagination. Now, I'm not knocking on any of today's artists. There are some absolutely phenomenal artists today. But for me, the ones that I grew up with, the Dungeons and Dragons artists I grew up with, to me, just they defined the genre. I mean, when I'm talking from Frank Frazetta to Ken or C.W. Kelly to the Hildebrandts to Boris. Luis Royo was good, but his also had some. While he had some tremendously amazing artwork, his stuff also had a tendency to borderline the inappropriate for, what parents would allow their children to want to have with them. So, there's that. But yeah, now, see, I would have got on here not to change the subject, but I would have got on here earlier and done and recorded while I was filling in the colors and stuff. But there were, as you can see, there is so much detail work and the fractal lines and stuff that I wanted to be able to concentrate on that, because with ink you can't exactly, especially I don't want to start this map over if I don't have to. Now, as you see, it's coming through. Now I'll just put in some grass. One of the things I actually missing about live streaming, and when I get able to do so here on YouTube, I'll start doing more live streaming. But one of the things I miss about when I used to live stream doing this was actually being able to interact and talk with those who would come on and to watch. It was always just a distinct pleasure to do so. I mean, it was something that I actually missed doing. And there is a very special person out there that I know when she watches this is a great inspiration for why I'm on here doing this again, and I just forgot how much I missed it. Yeah, you know who you are. But let's move this over here now. Let's get these. I'm gonna grab something to use as an anti-spoiling pad to lean on. All right, now. Here we go. Now look at this. See how it's all coming together, and I'll show you a good view of it before I sign off and continue on my work. Yeah, I'm trying to get a little bit of work in before I go have a little bit of some kind of 4th of July celebration. All right. I've forgotten just how much I absolutely love this. It's easy. If you've got a dream, guys, a passion, something that you love and fulfills you when you're working with it, do not let life put it aside. Sometimes things can come in and get in the way. Sometimes those things are people, sometimes those are events, sometimes they're just bad decisions or poor habits. But whatever you do what you love when it comes to, if it's creating maps, if it's telling stories, if it's creating role-playing games, if it's streaming, do the stuff that you love. You've got one life, and you've got probably countless dreams. Find what it is in your dreams that you can't live without. Pursue that. For me, I could not live without writing, art. Let me do this. But for me, I could not live without writing, art. Let's change this up. Let's see. Now we'll go ahead and use this. Let's see how well it mixes. Oh yeah, that's going in perfectly good. There's one thing about this is something that I've done a lot. I've made computer generated maps, hand drawing your maps, creating your own symbols. There are some phenomenal mapping softwares out there. Pro Fantasy, which is Campaign Cartographer. You've got Wonder Draft, and then you've got some phenomenal map making software. But the absolute best, in my opinion, is your imagination, a little geographical knowledge, and definitely just some imagination and create by hand. If I ever get back onto building I've got another project that has been set aside because I was going to work with someone on the project, and when they decided that they couldn't afford the time, they wanted to do the light stuff but wanted to leave the heavy world building, and it just wasn't going to do the consulting and stuff. When they didn't want to do that, it kind of got set to the side. And in that one, it was a total science fantasy that I was working on. And not only was I creating a single world, I was creating not multiple worlds, but I was actually creating multiple realities. Multiple realities and multiple universes that all had to intertwine at a crux. And, each had their own unique qualities. And sorry, I'm just trying to get this right here done. Anyway, each one had its own unique qualities and reality and their own physics and such. And I was even having to develop plant life that would be beneficial, that would only benefit in those areas, and unique, that you wouldn't just see on a daily basis. You draw a lot of inspiration from things around you that you want. You wonder, well, if this was like this, how would it come into play? How would it work? How would it fit the reality that is being presented? So, and maybe one day, if I decide to pull it back, or if I get a good partner that wants to help me build it, then I might draw it back out and I'll bring it up to the forefront and let that be seen as it develops. Because this is something I love. I mean, I genuinely just love creating, building worlds and writing the histories and such. All right. We are now getting closer. Okay, I'm gonna have to move my despoiling tool. Which is just basically a piece of poster board, a piece of Bristol board. It's nothing fancy. It sounds fancy. My anti-despoiling, da-da-da-da. Yeah, no. It's just a poster board to lean on so I don't smudge or do anything I don't want to do to my artwork here. Like I said, I've put a lot of hours into this long before I ever started recording on it to get it where it is now, or to get it to where it was when I started, because it was a whole thing of tracing the old map onto this and making sure everything followed into suit, redesigning certain symbols. So, all right. All right. What's cool is I might be able to actually make some shorts out of this. So if I can, I'm going to break it up so I can make a few shorts to post up. Yes. No, I definitely appreciate all of you joining me on this journey. And one of the things I will do is refresh myself on the histories and mythologies of this world as I go forward, so that I can better articulate, because unfortunately, when you've been away from it for a while, even your best ideas can have a tendency to slip from mind. So I will have to go back over my written histories and stuff so that I can better articulate this. Before I got sidetracked, distracted, and completely just pulled away for a while, I could sit here and articulate the entire history to you as I was working, and tell you the stories behind locations and events. And it's not that I'm forgetful or anything like that. I've actually got a very, very sharp memory. But when you've been away from something so long and you just haven't, sometimes you've got to refresh. And it's the difference between articulating a story and actually is the difference between articulating the story and actually telling, an actual event that happened. All right. We have moved right along, and I'm actually happy to see this. I'm glad to see that you guys have joined me along on this. All right. This looks to be the last two swampy areas I have to fill in and do. So, okay, so I can get it a little bit better. There we go. Quit your sliding. All right. It's like a child. You gotta have to watch it sometimes. Like, nah, don't you do it. And that sounded just southern. Oh my goodness, that just sounded southern. And yes, I am southern, but yeah, still, that was southern for me, and I am southern. All right, now. know somebody's probably going to put a counter up on the thing just to see how many times I've said all right. That's all right. Let's see, there's another one. Well, there we go. Let me close up this pen, and we're going to take an aerial view of it. You guys ready for that aerial view? No? Not tough. You're going to see it anyway. All right, ready? Let me pull this up. All right. There we go. Here we go. Look at this. There you have it. And what's better is, see, the reason I am filling these areas in like this first is because it's a lot easier to fill in the adverse terrains before doing like the grasslands and the main land and stuff, because you then have everything else in place and you're not overriding specific borders and boundaries and areas like that. So by getting all these in areas first, once I bring the grasslands into those areas, I can take the blender and blend them in and make it all basically look like an ancient world map like you would find in the Cloud City of Miralon's great library. Is this the only map I'm going to do like this? No. The reason being is I've also got the continent of Gelinor. I have got Drakenstad. I've got, I'm about to say Drakenholm, but Drakenholm is right there. And then you've got the island of Igraine, which would be out here in this realm, this part of the realm where these pins and stuff are, just off to the further east. And then many more to go, because just as I say, that's what I've got so far. That is how much the world of Areth has grown since 2003, 2004, when the first map was pinned. And I might get back on here later and actually let you see the original maps and how they came together. But for now, this is where we're at. And it is absolutely, my fingers, it is absolutely just coming along nicely, and I'm actually excited and tickled by what I see. So I cannot wait for you guys to see what it becomes. All right. Well, all right. Thank you. I appreciate you joining in. I'm going to sign off of here, and got some other stuff I need to do. But I thank you, as always, for joining me in this journey. I'm glad to see that you get to be a part of what I'm creating and get to see it come together as I'm building it. Even though the map is an already established map, you're getting to see it come out into full color. And you're getting to see the process of me putting that map together, and I am absolutely excited for you guys to join me in that. All right, that being said, I am going to sign off of here. You guys have a wonderful and safe 4th of July. If you're out doing fireworks and all that, be safe. You know, drinking, don't drive. If you're driving, don't drink. Just exercise good, practical sense. And I will talk to you again soon. Have a good day, and until next time.